alone in the dark. I never minded being home alone. At 17, I welcomed the quiet. My parents were out for the weekend, and I had the house to myself. No nagging, no rules, just me, some horror movies, and a fridge full of snacks. The first night was uneventful. I fell asleep on the couch watching some slasher flick and woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of the wind rattling the windows. Nothing unusual. I locked up and went to bed. But the second night, that was different. It started around midnight. I was upstairs in my room when I heard a thud downstairs. Not the usual creaks and groans of the house settling. This was something heavy, something deliberate. I froze, listening. Then came another noise. This time it was the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, steady, moving across the hardwood floor. I grabbed my phone and turned off my bedroom light, heart hammering. I texted my mom. "I think someone's in the house." She didn't reply. Probably asleep. I debated calling the cops, but what if it was nothing? What if I was just being paranoid? Then I heard breathing. It was faint, just outside my bedroom door. I nearly dropped my phone. My bedroom door was closed and I hadn't made a sound. Whoever was out there, they were listening. I reached for something, anything, to defend myself. My hands found a heavy flashlight on my nightstand. My mind was racing. Should I hide? Make a run for it? Then the doorknob turned. I stopped breathing. The door didn't open, but the knob twisted back and forth slowly, almost playfully, like whoever was on the other side wanted me to know they were there. I couldn't move. My body refused. My mind screamed at me to run, but I just stood there, gripping the flashlight so hard my fingers ached. Then, silence. The knob stopped turning. The footsteps retreated down the hall. I waited, counting the seconds. When I finally gathered the courage, I crept to my door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. I had to get out. I unlocked my window as quietly as I could, pushing it open. It was a short drop to the backyard. I could make it. But as I swung one leg out, a voice whispered from inside my room. "Where are you going?" I turned, and I saw him, a tall figure standing in the corner of my dark room. I hadn't heard him enter, hadn't seen him move, but he was there, smiling. And that was the last thing I remembered before everything went black. The man in the vents. I've never been scared of being home alone. At 18, I had the whole house to myself for the weekend while my parents visited my aunt in another state. I saw it as an opportunity: movies, junk food, and uninterrupted peace. The first night was uneventful. I stayed up late watching a horror movie, then crashed on the couch. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up feeling uneasy. The room was silent, too silent. Then I heard it. A soft, barely audible scratching sound. At first I thought it was the wind, but it was coming from inside the house. Slow, deliberate movements, like something shifting through the walls. I sat up, every nerve in my body on edge. It was coming from the air vents. I told myself it was just an animal, a rat maybe. But deep down, something felt wrong. I stared at the vent cover near the ceiling, heart hammering. The sound stopped. I waited, but nothing else happened, so I convinced myself I was imagining things and went to bed. Night 2. I woke up to a creaking noise. It was faint, but in the stillness of the house, it sounded deafening. I lay frozen in bed, listening. Then, scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound was coming from the vent above my bed. I held my breath, staring up at the dark metal grate. And then, a single glinting eye peered through the slats. I screamed and bolted out of bed, running straight for the front door. But just as I reached it, I stopped. It was locked. Not just locked, the deadbolt was latched from the inside, but I never locked it. That's when I knew. Whoever was in the vents had been in the house. The escape, I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find, and called 911 with shaking hands. I whispered to the operator that someone was inside my home. She told me to stay on the line, but I couldn't focus. My ears were straining, listening. Then, from the ceiling, I heard it. A low, rasping chuckle. It was right above me. I ran out the back door and didn't stop running until I was halfway down the street. When the police arrived, they searched the house. They found the vent cover in my room unscrewed, dusty fingerprints on the inside, and in the attic, a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, a small knife. Someone had been living up there, watching me. The worst part, the attic hatch had a lock from the inside. Whispers in the walls. I always thought being home alone would be fun. No rules, no interruptions, just me, my music, and my phone. But that was before I realized I wasn't really alone. It started with the whispers. At first, I thought I was imagining things. I'd be lying in bed at night, scrolling through my phone when I'd hear it. Soft, unintelligible murmurs like someone speaking just below a whisper. I'd take out my earbuds. Silence. Maybe it was the pipes. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But then, one night, I heard my name. Ethan. The voice was so quiet I almost convinced myself I was dreaming. But then it came again, closer this time, slipping through the dark. Ethan, come find me. My stomach clenched. The sound wasn't coming from my phone, my earbuds, or even the hallway. It was coming from inside the walls. The crawl space. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I decided to check the house. I knocked along the walls, listening for hollow spaces. Nothing. But when I reached the hall closet, the knocking sounded different. I pulled everything out. Jackets, old boxes, a vacuum cleaner, until I found it. A small square door at the back of the closet, a crawl space. I hesitated. My gut screamed at me not to open it. But I had to know. The door creaked as I pulled it open, revealing a narrow tunnel between the walls. The air smelled stale, like dust and something rotting. I turned on my phone's flashlight and aimed it inside. That's when I saw it. A makeshift bed, stained blankets, crumpled food wrappers. A small pile of notebooks with pages filled with handwriting. Someone had been living in my walls. Then I noticed something else. The back of the crawl space had been scratched, deep gouges in the wood. Words. I see you when you sleep. A chill ran down my spine. My phone buzzed in my hand, making me jump. A text from an unknown number. Why did you move my things? Too late. My hands shook as I backed away from the crawl space, heart pounding. Then, footsteps. Not from inside the walls, from inside the house. I wasn't alone. I ran, slamming my bedroom door shut and locking it. My fingers fumbled to dial 911 as the footsteps grew louder. Someone stopped outside my door. Silence. Then, Ethan. A whisper, right outside. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They found the crawl space, the bed, the notebooks, but they never found him. That night, I slept at a friend's house. But before I left, I noticed something on my bedroom mirror. A single fingerprint. On the inside of the glass,